Sí, que va a faltar, no te Gracias.
Well, the film basically culminates in, as you say, in a way, in a fiction way and in a documentary as well. The footage we shot, the footage we see in the film is shot in a very documentary way. So we had a drone like a little playing drone that you can buy in the Apple Store, which was important because that would, enabled us to shoot at these very crazy locations where a lot of tourists happen. So basically, we were disguised as tourists to be able to get these shots. And the material is, the statements are real statements of real whistleblowers from the US Army. Statements that are already public online and in different publications and interviews. And we served these, we took these interviews and shorted them or put them in a dramatic structure to facilitate the find, fix, and the finish. Yeah, we've had a lot of, not criticism, but the people have said, is this a documentary or is this a fiction film? And we had to write the sources in the credits, and also there's a line which says the filmmakers were not handed classified information during the production of the film, which we were, because we spoke to a lot of journalists, and they said you might want to put that in, not to make yourself, and maybe the potential people that you met but not interviewed do any harm to them. Americans and the whole world, this remote warfare is a way of conducting war much easier. And so with technology progressing, the means of war making become easier, and the battlefield becomes in a way virtual. The soldiers are withheld and are taken away from the conventional battlefield and put stay at home basically in America and film and conduct a war from there. So that, I think, definitely is going to progress over the years. As we see technology improve, they will be able to hopefully conduct more precise missions and more precise targeted killings than they do already or have in the past. In concerns to Trump, we'll have to see how that goes. Obama had a huge impact in the way that drone and remote warfare has been conducted in the last 8 years. Our film is called Find, Fix, Finish because under Bush the doctrine was called Find, Fix, Capture, and Obama changed that basically into Find, Fix, Finish. The targeted assassinations of specific people, but also people that were a potential threat, and people who weren't even on the card or on the paper. They didn't even have the names. Were killed and assassinated in these terrible ways of making war. But it's definitely something which is evolving, and most of the information we have in our film dates back around Snowden, so about 2013. And all the information and all the technology that has improved since, obviously we don't know much about, but I guess the way technology is progressing in our consumer world and the military world is way more advanced. They might have, and they probably have, other ways and more advanced ways of conducting war. And I hope that is in a way a positive thing, although making war isn't, but in that they can select people more carefully and kill the only people they want to kill and not the people around them and other people. Interesting enough, Germany has a big role in this whole war, or for the Americans at least, because the Americans have a base near Frankfurt. It's called Ramstein, and all the satellite connections, all the fiber optic connections from America under the Atlantic go there, and then from that point on, they're sent through satellite to the drones in Yemen because the distance is too far. And so ultimately, all the buttons and the missiles shot go through Germany, Germany hasn't really gone public with this, and it goes through an American base, but it's still on German ground theoretically, and so they have a very much involvement in that, and I guess we'll have to see how how Germany deals with this, if they even touch upon it, and how the Americans would change their strategies and potential geolocational bases to facilitate these operations and potential attacks. Interesting enough, the European Union, or the countries who own militarized and armed drones in Europe, have, I think, constantly moved away from the drone being a means of weapon to kill certain people, but more as a protector for their soldiers on the conventional battlefield. And so the American drones are called Reaper and Predator. The English have renamed the same aircraft a Protector, for example. And in Europe, I don't think personally that we'll see much of the drones flying in Europe itself, because the airspace is just too full, so there wouldn't be too much room, basically. And we're being surveilled differently through signals intelligence and through internets and everything, the whole NSA process, basically. But we only, from my research at least, the American drone program is the one which is most uncovered in a way, because most of the whistleblowers and most of the people who have spoken out about this are Americans, because they have the biggest and most, the biggest and the longest drone program. And so, because drone warfare by nature is invisible, and the people on the ground can't see the aircraft, they can't hear the aircraft, and secretive in the way that the Americans have fought the war, or have hidden it from the public. It was something really interesting to us as filmmakers, and we wanted to delve down and find a way of telling a story which hasn't been shown in the way it did. Just to show the people, and especially to recreate this emotion that the drone pilots feel when flying and operating their drones from America, observing people in Yemen, thousands of kilometers away, but build up this voyeuristic intimacy with their targets because they follow them and surveil them over years and months and days generally. I hope that in our film, through the aesthetic images and the beauty of the images, an audience member can lose himself in those and follow different people, and at the same time, with the information given to us by the drone pilots and the whistleblowers in the sound, there is a juxtaposition there in the beauty, but in the perversity in a way between those two.